My name is Leo. I'm 24 and my life is on pause. 6 months ago, I was a junior software developer with a promising trajectory. Now, I'm a casualty of corporate restructuring, crashing in the spare room of my older sister, Clara. The plan was a few weeks, just until I landed on my feet. That was 3 months ago. Clara, a high-octane divorce lawyer, never complained. With her ex-husband a ghost in their daughter's life, she was grateful for the built-in babysitter. I handled school pickups for my 5-year-old niece, Sophie, reheated her dinosaur-shaped nuggets, and endured endless rounds of house, where Sophie would invariably cast me as the family dog. I didn't mind. Sophie's infectious giggle was a balm on the sting of rejection emails and my shrinking savings account. She'd wrap her tiny arms around my neck and call me her best buddy or her Leo bear. The title didn't matter. In her eyes, I wasn't a failure. But Clara didn't know my secret. The one that bloomed in the dead of night, after the house fell silent and the only sound was the hum of the fridge. On the days when the feeling of being a disappointment was a physical weight, I would slip into her walk-in closet. It began with a curious touch, the silk of a blouse, the soft knit of a cashmere cardigan. Then, I slid my feet into a pair of her kitten heels, my reflection a distorted stranger in the full-length mirror. It wasn't a fetish. I didn't think of myself as trans or even a crossdresser. The labels felt foreign and ill-fitting. All I knew was that when I pulled on a pair of her sheer stockings, the jagged edges inside me smoothed over. The anxious, clumsy man I was all day dissolved, replaced by someone quieter, more graceful. A version of myself I secretly called Leona. Leona wasn't burdened by a flimsy resume. She was poised, complete. It was a fragile piece, locked away in the stillness of the night. The only person who might have sensed the fracture in me was Maya. Maya was Clara's best friend and Sophie's godmother, a force of nature who moved through the world with an effortless glamour. We'd dated briefly a lifetime ago, before college tore us apart. Now, she was a constant, welcome presence in the house, often arriving after work in a sharp blazer and pencil skirt, her laughter filling the rooms Clara's stress had emptied. Sometimes, when she thought I wasn't looking, I'd catch her watching me, her gaze lingering with an unnerving perception. I always wondered if she could see the ghost of Leona shimmering at my edges. The day it all shattered began with a text from Clara, "Court running late. Can you keep soft for a few more hours? I owe you big time." A little while later, Maya stopped by to drop off a file for Clara. Before she could leave, Sophie had attached herself to her leg. "Maya, stay. We're having a fancy party." Maya's smile was flawless. "Sweetheart, I can't. I have a dinner thing." Sophie's lower lip trembled. "But it's a princess party." Maya's resolve crumbled. She looked from Sophie's pleading face to me, a silent question in her eyes. I just shrugged. "We've got time." She knelt, kissing Sophie's forehead. "Okay, but just for a little while. I'll be the royal advisor." She winked at me. "Thanks, Leo. You're a saint." After she left, Sophie and I arranged her stuffed animals around a tiny table. Then, she disappeared into her room, returning with a plastic crown and a fluffy purple boa. "You need a costume," she announced, her tone non-negotiable. "All the princesses have to wear a dress." I chuckled. "I don't have a princess dress, sophomore." She squinted, then pointed a decisive finger toward her mother's bedroom. "Mommy has lots." The suggestion landed in my chest and bloomed, hot and fast. A terrible, thrilling idea. Clara wouldn't be home for hours. It was just a game. For Sophie. I told myself that again and again as I walked toward her room. My hands trembled as I opened the closet. I bypassed the power suits and sensible work dresses, my fingers finding a floral sundress with a soft, flowy skirt. It was pale blue, with delicate cap sleeves. I found a new pair of nude tights still in their packaging and slipped them on, the nylon a familiar, calming whisper against my skin. I slid my feet into a pair of simple flats. When I looked in the mirror, I held my breath. It wasn't Leo, the unemployed brother mooching off his sister. It was Leona. Her shoulders were softer, her posture straighter. She belonged. Sophie clapped her hands when I returned to the living room. "You're so pretty." We sat at her little table, sipping imaginary tea from plastic cups. For the first time in months, the smile on my face wasn't forced. It felt real. Then, Sophie poured me another pretend cup, her expression serious. "When I grow up," she said, her voice full of conviction, "I want to be a mommy. Just like you." My breath hitched. The plastic cup trembled in my hand. "Oh, sweetie, I'm not a mommy." She tilted her head, confused. "But you're wearing a mommy dress. And you look like a mommy. And you take care of me." She paused, then beamed. "You're my new mommy." Before I could find the words to answer, the front door clicked open. Footsteps echoed in the entryway. My body went rigid. Clara wasn't due back yet. A voice called out, melodic and familiar. It was Maya. "Hey, I forgot my scarf. Is it in here?" The door swung open fully. I was frozen, mid-sip of invisible tea, one hand holding Sophie's, the other clutching the delicate fabric of the dress. "Leo?" Maya called again, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I saw her shadow lengthen before she appeared in the archway to the living room. She stopped. Her gaze swept over the scene in a single, silent second. It took in Sophie, beaming in her plastic crown and boa. It took in the miniature tea set. And then it landed on me. On the floral sundress, the tights, the flats. Her perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose just a fraction. Her mouth parted, but no sound came out. I scrambled to my feet, the dress swishing around my knees. The fabric felt like a costume, a condemnation. "Maya." I can explain." She blinked slowly, her expression unreadable. "You look," she paused, searching for the word. "Different." The silence that followed was deafening. My own heartbeat thundered in my ears. Then Sophie, oblivious to the tension, piped up. "We're playing Princess Party. He's my new mommy now." Maya's gaze flickered to Sophie, then back to me. I braced for the laugh, the pitying head tilt, the phone call to my sister. I waited for the world to come crashing down. Instead, a small, almost imperceptible smile touched the corners of her lips. "Well," she said, her voice even. "I've certainly seen you in worse outfits." I just stared at her, my mind blank. She took a step into the room, her eyes never leaving mine. She wasn't looking at the dress anymore, she was looking at me. "Are you okay?" That simple question shattered my composure. A wave of relief so profound it felt like grief washed over me. I managed a shaky nod, but my eyes burned with unshed tears. I didn't want anyone to see. "See what?" she asked softly, sitting on the arm of the sofa. She crossed her legs, the picture of elegance, completely unfazed. "You look good, Leo. Calmer." I let out a short, hollow laugh. Calmer is one word for it. "Leo." Her tone was gentle, inviting. "Is this a thing? For you?" I hesitated, the truth a heavy stone in my throat. "Sometimes," I whispered. "When things are hard. When I'm alone." She didn't ask what it was called. She didn't ask why. She just nodded, as if I'd confessed to a fondness for a particular brand of coffee. Then she asked the one question I had never dared to ask myself. "And when you do this, does it feel like you?" I couldn't answer. But in the quiet understanding that passed between us, I knew she already had her answer. After that afternoon, something fundamental shifted. Maya didn't tell Clara. She didn't mock me. For a few days, she didn't mention it at all. But the way she looked at me had changed. The curiosity was still there, but it was warmer now, tinged with a new intimacy. She had seen the most fragile, hidden part of me, and she hadn't flinched. She came over later that week. Clara was at a networking dinner, and Sophie was fast asleep, the baby monitor a quiet sentinel on the kitchen counter. I was in my usual uniform of jeans and a faded t-shirt. "You still have access to the closet?" she asked, her voice casual as she poured herself a glass of water. I stiffened. "What do you mean?" "The dress from the other day," she said, turning to face me. "Or is there something else in there you like?" She raised an eyebrow. "Because that floral print was nice, but I think a jewel tone would really suit you." I was speechless. "Why are you asking?" She leaned against the counter, her expression serious now. "Because, Leo, you looked happy. For the first time in months, you looked genuinely, uncomplicatedly happy." Hiding in a closet isn't a long-term plan. She paused, then walked over to her purse and pulled something out. She placed a small, sleek tube of lipstick on the table between us. It was a subtle, rose-tinted shade. "If Leona is going to make an appearance," Maya said softly, "she deserves better than to live in the shadows." I stared at the lipstick, then up at her. The name Leona, spoken aloud by someone else, felt both terrifying and liberating. It made her real. And in that moment, I knew there was no going back. The pretense that this was just a game, just a secret coping mechanism, crumbled away. Leona wasn't a character I was playing. She was a part of me I had been trying to suppress. She was me. Sophie's 6th birthday party was a minefield. The week leading up to it had been a blur of whispered arguments and tense silences. Clara had found out. Not from Maya, but from walking in on me one evening. I was in the kitchen, wearing one of her silk blouses, humming as I packed Sophie's lunch for the next day. The look on her face was a cocktail of confusion, hurt, and fear. Maya had run interference, convincing Clara to let me not only attend the party, but help set it up. The one condition was delivered through clenched teeth: just be Leo. No extras. For Sophie's sake. I agreed, the word yes tasting like ash in my mouth. But when I arrived the morning of the party, Sophie's face fell. She tugged on the hem of my jeans. "Where's Leona?" My heart stuttered. "I'm here, sweetie. It's me, Leo." "No," she insisted, her little brow furrowed. "I mean the real mommy. The one with the pretty dresses." Clara, who had been taping a happy birthday banner to the wall, overheard. Her movements stilled. I saw her shoulders slump, the fight seeming to drain out of her. "I didn't teach her that," I said quietly, the words aimed at my sister. "She just started." Clara turned, her eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. "I know," she whispered. "I was scared, Leo. I still am. Scared of what people will say. Scared of what this means for her." "I'm scared too," I admitted. We stood in a fragile truce. Then, she walked to her bedroom and returned with a small, gift-wrapped box. "This is from Sophie," she said, her voice strained. She picked it out with Maya. I opened it. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a simple, elegant A-line dress in a deep sapphire blue. The exact color Maya had suggested. A matching silk scarf was folded neatly beside it. "She wanted you to wear this today," Clara said, not quite meeting my eyes. "She said it was Leona's favorite color, even though she's never seen you wear it." She finally looked at me, a flicker of understanding in her gaze. "The guests will be here soon. You should probably go change. Leona needs to be ready for her daughter's party." I broke down in the guest bathroom, silent sobs racking my body. When I emerged minutes later, dressed as Leona, I felt a sense of rightness that overshadowed the fear. The party was a surreal success. Leona moved through the small crowd of parents and children with a confidence Leo never possessed. Sophie held my hand tightly, introducing me to her friends. "This is my other mommy, Leona." The parents, friends of Clara's, offered polite, if slightly bewildered, smiles. A few asked gentle questions. Most just accepted it. During the cake, Clara raised her glass. "To Sophie," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "And to family. The one we're born into and the one we build. To the people who love her fiercely, even when it's complicated." Her eyes found mine across the room, and for the first time, I felt like we were on the same side. Then a camera phone flashed. I turned to see one of the other mothers, a woman named Danielle, smiling at me from across the table. I had been helping Sophie blow out her candles, our heads close together. "That's a beautiful photo," she said warmly. "You two look so happy. You should be proud." I offered a weak smile, an uneasy feeling settling in my stomach. Hours later, after the last guest had left and Sophie was asleep in a sugar coma, Maya rushed into the living room, her phone in her hand, her face pale. "You need to see this." Danielle had posted the photo to her public Instagram profile. The image was stunning, a candid shot of pure joy. Me, as Leona, beaming down at Sophie, whose face was alight with excitement. The caption read, "Celebrating Sophie's 6th birthday with her two amazing moms. So much love in this family. #modern family, #love is love." It was going viral in our local community. The comments were a tidal wave. Some were overwhelmingly sweet, some were viciously cruel, and some were dangerously misinformed. My phone rang. It was Clara. "We need to talk. Now." I walked into her home office the next morning, steeling myself for a fight. Instead, she handed me a mug of coffee, her expression grim. "The school called," she said flatly. "The principal saw the post." I tensed. "And?" "They want to update Sophie's emergency contact information," she said, her voice hollow. "They asked if Leona was a legal guardian." She looked up at me. "And apparently, Sophie told her entire kindergarten class yesterday that her Uncle Leo went away, and now she has a new mommy named Leona." I flinched. "She's 6, Clara. She's just trying to make sense of it." "She understands love," Clara countered, her voice cracking. "She understands who shows up for her. And for the last 6 months, that's been you." She let out a long, shuddering breath. "I don't fully get what's happening, Leo. I don't know who Leona is yet. But I see how happy Sophie is with her." She reached into her purse and slid a folded pamphlet across the desk. It was for a family therapist specializing in gender and identity. "For all 3 of us," she said. My heart ached with a painful, hopeful gratitude. I just nodded. We were a beautiful, terrifying mess, but for the first time, we were a we. A week later, I got a call from the school nurse. "Is this Leona?" she asked, her voice calm. I didn't hesitate. "Yes. We have Sophie here in the office. She has a bit of a fever and she's been asking for you." I dropped everything. I raced through traffic in a simple wrap dress and flats, barely registering the curious glances. When I burst into the nurse's office, Sophie ran into my arms, burying her hot face in my neck. The nurse smiled kindly. She was so upset until we told her her mom was on her way. Holding her tiny, warm body against mine, I felt a profound shift. Leona wasn't a secret anymore. She wasn't an escape. She was real. And she had a daughter. The day began with a fragile sense of normalcy. Sophie, finally over her fever, was back to her usual effervescent self, demanding I draw a smiley face on her banana and wear the dangly silver earrings she declared were my signature look. It felt steady. Real. I was Leona in the daylight, packing a lunchbox, navigating the school drop-off line, doling out bedtime kisses. Clara and I were talking, really talking, in our therapy sessions. Maya was coming over for dinner. We were finding our rhythm. The knock on the door shattered it all. 3 sharp, official raps. I glanced at the clock, 10:15 a.m. Clara was in court. Maya wasn't due for hours. I settled Sophie on the sofa with her tablet. "Be right back, my love." When I opened the door, a cold dread washed over me. A man in a nondescript gray suit stood on the porch. He was in his late 40s, with impassive eyes and a leather portfolio tucked under one arm. "Leona Daniels?" he asked, his tone flat. My voice was a reedy whisper. "My name is Leo Daniels." He gave a tight, professional smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm Mark Sandoval with the Department of Child and Family Services." The world tilted on its axis. "Excuse me. We received an anonymous report," he said, his gaze flicking past me into the house, "concerning the welfare of Sophie Miller." My blood ran cold. Behind me, Sophie was quietly singing along to a cartoon theme song, completely oblivious. "A report?" I managed, my throat tight. "About what?" He nodded. "The report alleges that the child is in the primary care of an individual who is misrepresenting their identity and has no legal authority or guardianship." I stared at him, my mind scrambling. "I'm sorry, who filed this?" "I'm not at liberty to disclose that information," he said, his voice a bureaucratic monotone. "I will need to speak with the child alone." I shifted my body, instinctively blocking his path. "You can't just come in here." "I am not here to remove her, ma'am," he said, the ma'am, a deliberate, loaded word. "I am here to conduct a welfare check and assess the home environment. I am her uncle." "Her aunt," I corrected myself, the words feeling clumsy and inadequate. "She's safe. She's loved." His eyes performed a slow, clinical sweep of my appearance, the soft knit dress, the earrings Sophie had chosen, the light makeup I'd applied that morning. "I'm not here to pass judgment on your lifestyle," he said, the word lifestyle landing like a punch. "But I am required to verify your legal relationship to the child. And if you are not on any official record, that presents a significant problem." He opened his portfolio and pulled out a printed sheet of paper. My heart stopped. It was the photo from Sophie's birthday. The one from Instagram. Me, Leona, cutting the cake, Sophie's arms wrapped joyfully around my waist. The caption was still visible underneath. "This is what prompted the report," he stated. A concerned party believed the child was being systematically confused, possibly even groomed, by a male relative impersonating a woman. "No," I said, the word coming out sharp and desperate. "No, that's not what this is. She calls me her mommy on her own. It's a nickname. It's complicated." "I understand it may be complicated," he interrupted, his tone unwavering. "But the law is not. You are not her legal guardian. You are not legally recognized as her step-parent. Your name is Leo Daniels." I swallowed against the lump in my throat. "Her mother, Clara, she knows everything. She supports this. Us. We will need to speak with Ms. Miller as well, of course. In the meantime, I am officially opening an investigation." He handed me a business card. "I will be back tomorrow morning at 10. Please ensure Ms. Miller is present." If she is not, his eyes flickered down the hallway towards the sound of Sophie's singing, "we will be forced to escalate the situation." Then he turned and walked away. I closed the door, my hand trembling so hard I could barely turn the lock. "Mommy?" Sophie called from the living room. I forced a smile, my face feeling like a brittle mask. "Everything is fine, sweetheart." But it wasn't. It was a nightmare. My fingers shook as I dialed Maya's number. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright and cheerful. "Hey, gorgeous. What's up?" "They came," I whispered, the words barely audible. Maya's tone shifted instantly. "Who came, Leo?" "Child Services. DCFS." There was a beat of stunned silence on the other end. "They're opening an investigation. Someone reported me." I choked back a sob. "Maya, they might take her away." From the living room, Sophie called out, "Mommy, I drew a picture of our family. It's you and me and Auntie Clara and Maya." Tears streamed down my face, hot and silent. I whispered into the phone, the question a raw plea. "What do I do?" Maya's voice came back, no longer light or cheerful, but forged in steel. "We fight."